Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. We're back. The NFL Combine in beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana. This wonderful city is already taking its toll on some of its soldiers, as you'll see soon by Matthew Berry's troubling, unshaven appearance and rusty voice. But we're all having a good time here. Myself, Lawrence Jackson, Connor Rogers, and the aforementioned Matthew Berry.
You know what? I think that's a shot, and I think you're just trying to protect your boy Connor because he can't actually grow facial hair. I don't.
Neither can I.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I've worked with you for 3 years. I don't think I've ever seen you with stubble, and it's not like you're particularly clean shaven, or
hair comes from up top.
fastidious about your hygiene. I just feel like neither of you have the hormones. Honestly, I want to be honest with you that I do. I grow hair at an exponential rate, and you were right because. It was a late night for me, and I'll tell you why it was a late night. It was a late night for me, and it was a late night for Lord Don't Lose, Lawrence Jackson.
Yes. Yeah.
Because because Lawrence and I and producer Damien, we were out and about, and you know what we were doing? We were gathering intel. Well, first off, we went to the Pacers game.
Where I was.
That's you and I went to
you and I
went to the Pacers game. That's producer Damien and backup producer Pete. We allowed him to come along to the game. He didn't have any other plans, so we might have been his backup plan.
He does look extra happy about
Yeah.
it. He's smiling the widest in that
We all
picture.
took the Pacers minus 11.5, and that cashed.
Yeah. But let me tell you something. If Pascal Siakam ever wants to come on the show, he's not allowed.
No.
Because he did not get the over 3.5 assists plus money. Never seen a man with more tunnel vision than Pascal Siakam.
And,
It's only for the hoop.
Didn't get the double-double that I bet on. Didn't get the 33 total points, rebounds, and assists.
We got screwed by an Emmanuel Quickly stat correction. Ball flew out of his hands.
What a banner night at the Pacers game.
It was tough, but it was a good night. It was a good night. Great times with good people.
We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun at the Pacers game where they did destroy the Raptors, and then you and backup producer Pete went off to whatever it is you guys did.
We went home separately.
Yeah, sure.
We slept in our own beds.
Make sure you clarify.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, man.
But then Damien and Lawrence and myself went. I got invited to a party thrown by Athletes First, which is a very well-known, very large agency that represents athletes and coaches. And they always throw a great event in Indianapolis. So thank you so much to the invitation. Really wonderful event. And so here's how this works. Usually I get invited, and I get invited with a +1. So I bring Damien. I bring producer Damien with me. And then Lawrence texts and says, yo, can I get in?
Yeah.
You know? And so then I have to go get Lawrence into the party.
Yeah.
And that works.
You do.
I do.
It's basically
You are very good on that front, Matthew.
It was effortless, painless. You know, I didn't have to step on nobody's foot, so it's all good.
It was good. And so, and Lawrence is always, I will say this, Lawrence is great to have at these parties. When you bring people to parties, what you want is somebody who sort of knows how to be there and also doesn't need babysitting. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, you don't, like, oh God, he doesn't know anyone. Let me go introduce him. Like, once Lawrence is in the party, he's the life of the party.
Training wheels are off.
Training wheels. Well, by the
Find my
way,
way.
he knows a lot of people too. Yes. So, you know, and like you were introducing me to people, and so Lawrence is always good at a party.
Yep.
I'll say that.
What are you saying about Jay and I?
yeah, exactly.
I go to parties.
I think you just tried to say
Connor's
it without
okay.
saying it.
Wow, no stubble, can't hold their own at parties.
That's
why. Connor, you're fine at a party, but Jay's in a corner on his phone, crushing
Betting
like
something.
Korean baseball bets or whatever at 3 a.m. Like it's
No, I will say, Matthew, for all your sins, you are very good at you don't leave your friends behind. But I heard there was an incident on the way home, Lawrence, with Matthew.
Well, it depends what you define incident by.
Yeah,
we had a nice stroll home, right? Back to the hotel, just walking in that Indianapolis wind blowing.
Yeah, it was cold.
We see a little food truck, and it's pretty late, and
I was hungry.
Food truck is glowing. They got like neon lights and stuff. Barry's like, well, let's see what's going on here.
Was Barry like a fly? Just drawn to the light?
We the only one on the street.
I'm starving.
My man gets some fries. He didn't get the Diet Coke this time, but he got the fries. So, he had himself a little midnight snack on the way back.
Yeah. What is that, an incident?
Something to help him put on the bed.
Yeah, like I had munchies. Like who has not left a party and had munchies? the exact reason a taco truck exists.
Yeah.
And so just of the
although
options.
I think the dude working the truck, he like woke up. He
waking
up. He like, what you need, man?
Yeah, it was a sketchy scene. that
Okay, well, anyway,
on the
today-
street at 2 a.m. hungry, beggars can't be pickers.
Drawn to the neon lights,
Yep.
as we all are. Anyway, we're going to talk about Connor's top wide receivers and tight ends in the draft. We'll hit a lot of the news as well. It's come out of the combine. But first, Matthew, anything you want to share for any nuggets that you learned?
Well, you know what? We can. I talked to. It's interesting. So at this party, met coaches and I met coaches, front office personnel from almost every NFL team, and there's a lot that came out as well. Tampa Bay desperately wants Chris Godwin back. I think they'll be aggressive in trying to retain him. I thought that was interesting. They do not want him. They can't franchise, but I think that's a deal that will get worked out.
They're good at closing deals for their own guys.
Yeah,
really
I mean, you
good.
think
One of
about
the best
Baker,
at it.
Mike Evans. You think about some of the guys over the years, exactly. So that became very clear last night. I talked to a couple. I'll leave it at this. I talked to multiple teams, and I'd be like, "Oh, who have you met with so far?" And multiple teams said this to me, completely independent of each other. Like, "Oh, we met the quarterbacks. Oh, what did you think?" And they each had, all the teams had the exact same answer, which is Cam's great. We love Cam Ward. He's terrific. Did you guys meet with Sanders? Yes. How was that? Not great.
Interesting.
Again, I talked to multiple teams and they literally had the exact same answer, completely
Really
independent of each other. It's just that again, these are just, when you're in these rooms, I want to clarify here because I'm not trying to kill the kid or anything like that. There are tons of people in the room.
Right.
It's not just a one-on-one, right? There are when you're a player, you're going in and you're interviewing with 10, 12
Could be up
coaches.
to that,
I mean, it's it's a lot of people. And so in these cases, these were the people that I were talking to were in the room, but they weren't not necessarily the decision maker or anything like that. I was just, what was your impression of the kid? You know what I mean? And again, it's an 18-minute meeting, and some players vibe with different teams, and it also depends on the time of day and the questions. But I just thought it was really interesting that all the teams I talked to, and I didn't talk to all of them, but I did talk to more than one, and all could not stop singing the praises of Cam Ward, and all of them also had more questions about Sanders than less after the meeting.
Connor, do you think that many teams, if any, have Sanders over Ward?
No, I don't know a team that does.
Yep.
It's kind of consensus that Cam's going to be the first quarterback taken in this draft. I think the question with Shedeur is just where does he go in the first round, right? Because we saw this with quarterbacks over the years. If you get past a certain point of all these quarterback-needy teams, you start to fall a little bit. So it'll be fascinating. That's what teams are trying to answer here.
Yep. Okay. Well, one of Shedeur's.
Could you think is there, because there's back and forth on Sanders and his tape. Is there a scenario where teams view Sanders as more of a project than a ready-made option? Cam Ward starts day one for whatever team he drafts him. Is there a scenario where somebody looks at him more like a Will Levis type, who people really liked coming out of the draft, but knew he needed some work? Lawrence, you were shaking your head.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
Shedeur to Will Levis is
I'm not saying they're similar players. I'm merely just saying
the situation.
The situation in that again, it got crazy, but up until the draft, there was talk that Levis was going in the top 5, and then he ultimately ended up
off of
first
traits. I think Shedeur is the opposite. I don't think it's the traits. I think you play him right away because you know what he is.
Right.
I don't think there's upside. That's the problem. He doesn't have the same playmaking, arm strength, running ability, size that you do. But he's played a lot of football where if I took him, I'd want him to play right away. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, well, we're going to get to
I thought that was interesting. That was the most interesting. I got a lot of nuggets, and I'll have a column coming out next week with all the rumors I heard. But to me, that was by far the biggest. And I'm going to try to talk to more people that met with the quarterbacks over the next couple of days while I'm still here.
Okay, well, we're going to show you some of the interviews that have taken place at the Combine. Connor's been hard at work, but first of all, Travis Hunter joined PFT earlier, talking about playing cornerback or wide receiver in the NFL.
My goal is to go number one. I think I'm going to thrive anywhere I go, so hopefully they let me go out there and do it the same thing I did at Colorado, go out and get on the field and dominate. So my thing is I want to play both sides of the ball, but, if that's not what they see, if that's not their vision, and they want me to earn the other position, I'm willing to do that.
What's an area of your game at corner and receiver that you could go, I could get a little bit better at?
First thing is I'll probably say tackling. You know, I can get better at tackling. There's bigger guys in the NFL, so I got to definitely bring my tackling up. And on the receiving end, you know, technique can always be better. Coming out the top of the routes, coming out of the breaks, and make sure I'm getting my depth every time.
Okay, Travis Hunter, number 1 on your big board, Connor.
Yeah.
Generational prospect. You've mocked him second to Cleveland. We're going to talk at the end of the show about the odds of where Hunter is going to go. Where do you stand on what his usage will ultimately be?
Well, it depends, obviously, ultimately what the team wants to do. I think he can be just as good at wide receiver as he is corner. I think he's the best corner in this draft. I think if you ranked him as a wide receiver, there's an easy argument to say he would be the top receiver. But I'm not of belief he could do both full time at the next level. I would be blown away. It's the team meetings. It's the preparation. I think he could play corner full time and have a package of plays at wide receiver. It's hard to do the opposite.
To me, that's the thing that makes the most sense.
But then for us with fantasy, like, good luck figuring that out, just saying right now. But I think he's the best player in the draft, clear as day. And I think you can make that argument whatever position you want him to play. But I really do think he's dug in that he wants to do both full time. I have no idea where that's going to go with the team once they take him.
Yep.
Yeah, I think to me it seems like it is easier, and I'm using that in quotes, right? But I think it is probably easier to be a wide receiver than a corner in the NFL. Again, both are all extremely very hard.
Like
but to your point,
part-time.
but you're right. But to your point, like, it's going to be easier to have him be a full-time corner, or have him in a lot of packages as a corner, and then there's a set package for him as a receiver, versus you're going to play 70% of the snaps at wide receiver, and then we're going to use you as a nickel. Like, well, you're not going to do that, right? Right.
No.
You can't use him like. It just feels like it's harder to do like just a quote defensive package where you want him in. Like, feels like where he can make the most difference is defensively, even though he's brilliant as a wide receiver as well.
I think it'll be about, so the first thing I say is I'm not going to doubt him. I think he can do both, but it's about team need, right? And like you guys say, like, more often than not, you need a DB more than you need a wide receiver. He could end up on a team where they already have an established number 1 wide receiver. Therefore, it'll make it easier for him to play receiver when he does do that. So if he does play, let's say, 30-ish snaps, whereas in college he was playing 60 offensive snaps. If he cuts that in half, you could actually see more production, see him be more effective as a receiver if you just cut the snaps in half.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead, Jay. Sorry.
Well, I was saying we heard from Kevin Stefanski, 2-time Coach of the Year. He won the award twice, Matthew, not once, on the debate of where to play Travis Hunter.
That's helpful to know.
He's a football player for sure. I think our offensive coaches want him to be a offensive player. Our defensive coaches want him to be a defensive player. So we'll talk through those type of things in this spring. I think every building is going to talk through those type of things, but he's a football player. Chuck Bednarik of the modern era.
If you took Travis, would there be some way where you guys would probably try to use him on something else?
I think that's certainly what most teams would be thinking with a player of his caliber.
That's 2-time Coach of the Year. It's Kevin Stefanski.
Yes.
Sad
we didn't get a chance to interview Kevin O'Connell again.
Yes.
Tell him commiserations for Dan Campbell's Coach of the Year victory.
Let's be clear. Dan Quinn should have been Coach of the Year.
Well,
but at any rate, for fantasy-wise, again, the other thing to think about here is, like, I think there will be a lot made about how he's going to play defense, he's going to do this, he's going to do that, he's not going to play a full complement of snaps on offense. But that doesn't totally matter.
Bingo.
Because it's about what happened. Like, I don't think they're just going to have him out there as a decoy.
No.
Like, so the snaps that he'll be out there, like if he plays 30 snaps a game on offense, right, or 25, like, he's not going to be out there blocking or like just running wind sprints. Like, they'll have a package of plays where he'll be the first read, where they will try to get the ball in his hands, given how dynamic he is. And I think about dynamic he is, and I think about prior to last year, think about, like, again, different player, obviously, but think about like Rashid Shaheed, who was fantasy productive, but not on a ton of snaps. But when he was out there, he earned targets at a high rate, and that's what I think will happen. That even on, like, is Travis Hunter going to be a number 1 or even number 2 fantasy wide receiver? Probably not. But is a wide receiver 3? Is he a flex? Is he somebody that, especially during bye weeks? Because I do think that they will try to, when he's out there, they will be snaps that he's going to be involved in the play.
Yeah, with what you were saying, Lawrence, earlier about how the fact that he will play reduce snaps relative to what he did in college, and that will make him even better. I think his comparison in American sport is Shohei Ohtani.
Right.
And when he took pitching away from Shohei this year, what did he do? He's like, I'm going to become the first player in MLB history to go 50-50. And I think that logically with Sanders as well, with Hunter as well, just the amount that he was playing was just so absurd, and you could tell that as freakish an athlete as he was, just has to take something out of you if you're not coming off the field.
I agree. If they put him in one position, he'll be elite at whatever they choose. It's just really the fine balance of how they do both.
Right, and you heard the player, you heard the interview, right, in terms of he wants to play both ways, and when you draft a player like that, you sort of, to quote Cam Newton, right, you got to let the lion roar, right? I mean, you don't. That's one of the things, that desire, that passion, that I can do this, I can play both sides. That's part of what makes him special, and so you don't want to you don't want to use a top 3 pick on a kid of his caliber and be like, oh, yeah, never mind.
Right,
that thing you desperately want to do, the thing that makes you special, don't do that.
I mean, it's just crazy that what we talk about, how we talk about it, right? Because he's probably going to end up playing more corner, right? But he won the Bolitnikoff Award for the best receiver in college. That just shows, how great of an athlete he is. So it'll be interesting to see. And like you said, Matthew, you don't have to play a lot of snaps. We start guys in fantasy who play 30 offensive plays. And when you're talking about a guy like Travis Hunter, who scored plenty of times on plays like screens and just getting him the ball in the short part of the field and taking it the distance, he's definitely going to be on the radar.
Yep. I hear Matthew use the same Cam Newton line to Lawrence last night when you were justifying your fries purchase at 2:30 a.m. The large fries. You got to let the lion roar, baby.
Got to let the lion roar.
The lion
Damn
roar.
right.
Okay,
yeah,
well,
of course.
Connor Rogers has been the hardest working man in showbiz this week, doing a lot of interviews with various prospects. So we're going to hit some of them. We're going to start off with Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State, who caught up with Connor.
Tyler, you got to catch touchdowns this year, run for touchdowns, throw a touchdown. What's your favorite, and what's so special about having such a diverse role in an offense?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if I have a certain favorite, but really what I loved about it was, adding one more thing that a defense had to prepare for, and another wrinkle that could help out our offense. And for me, that's what it was about, right? Helping whatever role was going to be that week, doing it to the best of my ability, because I knew it was going to, help our offense and eventually help our team to reach their goals.
What's funny about all the box score stuff is you turn on the tape against, say, Illinois, right? Fourth quarter, you have a block on a touchdown run that essentially ends the game. I thought you were more excited on that after that block than I've seen you for your box score stats. What is so special to you about contributing in the run game in that way?
Yeah, I think, what I love about football is the team aspect of it, right? And when you have, 10 guys working to get one guy in the end zone, and that was, like you said, fourth down, that was kind of seal the game. Just the feeling that you get when you execute a play like that and kind of play for the guy next to you is what I really love about the game, and that's kind of, where that emotion came from in that moment.
If you could spend an hour training with an NFL player, past or present, doesn't have to be a guy still playing, could be a tight end, could be something else, who would it be?
So I was asked this question earlier, and I said George Kittle. So to switch it up, I might go Jeremy Shockey, because that was a tight end I saw in the summer. Actually started watching up a little bit on, and just the way he, his mentality running the ball and kind of the, going up and making contested catches is something I really like. So it was probably those two if I had to pick.
So you're one of the rare guys that got to see and practice against Abdul Carter every day. What was that experience like? Somebody that is that explosive?
Yeah, I dealt with him when he was 5 yards off the ball for
a
few years, and then he was right up, a yard away from each other. So he's a versatile player that can do a lot of different things on the defensive side of the ball. But you saw what he's capable of this year, and his twitch and just his knack of finding the quarterback, and he's got every move you could possibly think in his pocket. He can do everything. He's a great player. One of the best ends, edge rusher guys that I got the chance to go against.
Okay,
I liked, by the way. Did you notice? I don't know if you noticed that, but very quietly, Tyler Williams. Well, I was asked that question before, and the real answer was George Kittle. But let me switch it up. So, not only did he insult you, saying hey, try to come with an original question, Connor, but then he also gave you an answer that he didn't really mean, because the real answer is the one he said the first one was Kittle, and he's just like, oh, fine, I'll give you the backup answer, Jeremy Shockey.
He said Shockey to Sims at Super Bowl, so I believed him.
Okay.
Yeah, while you guys were sleeping in, somebody has to actually do the work for the show around here, so I'll ask the hard questions.
Dear.
You guys get the rest and the fries.
When you're eating fries at 2:30 in the morning, you can't get your ass out of bed to then like talk to.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we
like,
don't need you puking on the top 10 pick of the draft.
We all have roles on this show, right? Lawrence is to accompany me to the taco truck at 2:30 in the morning.
I'd love to hear the role today, actually.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting.
That is Lawrence's role. He's got to be my body guy. You know what I mean? He's
body guy?
Yeah, you know,
bodyguard.
Yeah, let's
bodyguard, body man. You know, it's
Okay.
like, you know, bagman,
wingman,
wingman. Either well, not wingman, but like I'm married, but like I mean wingman in that, you know, go get me some wings, sure.
Yes, that's kind of where I was going.
I got that role.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, you know, body man.
Body man.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, no,
What
because
do you think of that title? Matthew Berry's body man.
Kind of weird.
Yeah, a little strange.
I received it, verbally. Don't accept as a body man. It's something I
can I tell you? No, and I'll say.
Terrific.
So you know what I mean? I like to when I get to the off season. Hang on, I'm going to explain this in 1 second.
We'll wait.
Yeah, thanks. When I get to the off season, because it's all football, you know. So when I get to the off season, I like to watch. I pick a show that I binge just for me, just dumb, you know, like whatever, whenever, right? And so like. Previous years like Cobra Kai, whatever.
Sure.
So right now what I am doing is I am rewatching, and because I didn't watch it all, I'm binging West Wing, which is an old, right? But a brilliant show. By the way, it's fascinating to watch West Wing today, given the current political climate. But anyway, so there's a character on the show that is the president's body man. Like, that's literally like, you know, Charlie, for those that watch, you know, Dulé Hill.
Oh, you talking about the dude who taking bullets.
No, not necessarily. Anyway, it's whatever. My point is, so I've got that phrase in my mind because I've been watching, watching West Wing.
You know what ruins the West Wing for me is that Sorkin's writing is too good. Like,
it's
human
amazing.
beings don't talk like that. Though.
It's amazing.
You don't talk that quickly. You don't come up with witty one-liners. It ruins Frasier as well.
Yeah.
People aren't that clever.
Yeah, I know. But
Anyway,
it's a brilliant show, brilliantly acted, and again, fascinating to watch it, given the current political climate on both sides of the ball.
Let's talk about Tyler Warren.
Yeah.
So to me, Connor, previously there has been thought that tight ends, they take a little bit more to mature and you don't become a superstar until year 2, year 3. But recently we've had these guys come out of the draft like Sam Laporta, immediately superstar. Brock Bowers, immediately superstar. Do you think that says more about those individual talents or about the way that the league is trending?
I think it's about them. I just think him and Colston Loveland in this draft that are going top 15, top 20, they're just different, right? Yeah, I'm sure we'll get some years where we just don't get guys like this, but we're kind of on a special run right now. Laporta was a little bit of a surprise, I'll be honest with you. Laporta was never going in the first round. He obviously didn't. He played a lot of roles at Iowa, but he really fell into the perfect situation and was phenomenal. But
and McBride wasn't considered this level either coming out. Like, people liked him, but he wasn't like...
Right. He wasn't drafted that early.
He wasn't drafted to be one of the top... I mean, he's probably one of the top 3 tight ends in football right now.
And what I'll say about McBride, though, is he was his offense in college. That's so rare. Tyler Warren was his offense in college. Yeah. Colston Loveland at times was his offense. And obviously Brock Bowers was his offense. Those at college, like, the tight end is not the offense. There's a number one wide receiver. There's a running back in a lot of carries, so that makes a difference too. And I think it's something that translates more often than not.
Yep.
Also, too, with Tyler Warren, he's a fifth-year senior player, so that plays into it too. With him specifically, he just played a lot of football.
Right.
He's gotten a lot of reps. As we know, he's played at different positions. He's done it in high school, now done it in college. So he's got a lot of football experience coming into the league.
You know what, a lesson for me out of Brock Bowers and how he performed last year is that Brock Bowers, I think, he slightly slid in drafts because he had this foot thing coming into the season where he's like questionable, and it's like, is there something wrong with Brock Bowers? I think you just really have to minimize that stuff because there is just a reasonable chance that it's just going to be nothing if there's a good chance that they can play week 1. And I think that just scared a lot of people off.
He also slipped because they were like, well, they have Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers. They don't have a great quarterback situation. They have Michael Mayer, so they'd spent a pick on the year before. And so it's like, there's how many targets is a rookie tight end going to get in what should be a run-first offense? Because people remember the previous year, over the final 4 games of the year, when Antonio Pierce took over as interim coach, like, it was all Zamir White, all Josh Jacobs. They just ran. So you're like, this is going to be a run-heavy, defensive-minded team that have, you know, a couple of guys that earn targets in Myers and Adams. And so how many targets is he going to get from a bad quarterback? And that's somewhat me trying to justify the fact that, like, he was on my preseason hate list and was like my worst call of the year. But that's because, and I thought the lesson there is sometimes you have to just elite talent is elite talent.
Well,
you have to ignore all the stuff around it. And it sounds like you're saying Tyler Warren is that.
Yeah, absolutely is.
Sometimes we overthink it, where the simple thing is like Brock Bowers is generational talent coming out.
Yeah.
Everyone agreed on that. He's going to admittedly they had Devontae Adams, but it's not like there are any other superstars on the team to take touches away from him. And he was going as like tight end 10 by the time the drafts were around, which in retrospect seems kind of crazy. But in any case, Tyler Warren will look to emulate Brock Bowers.
I have one last question for you on Tyler Warren before we move off this, Connor. Okay, a lot of people that are watching this play Dynasty, play deep keeper leagues and everything like that. If you were in a super flex tight end premium Dynasty league, which is I think the typical way most people play Dynasty these days, you got Cam Ward, you got Ashton Genty,
Right. Amari
Hampton. Amari Hampton. You got Tyler Warren, you got Shadir Sanders. Like in a super flex tight end premium rookie Dynasty draft, where does Tyler Warren go for you?
Man, obviously Cam's going to go because he's a quarterback.
Yep.
I don't think Shadur will go before Tyler Warren, honestly, but we'll see where he lands. That could be a big one. Genty and Hampton will go before him as well, for sure. So those 3 players in front of him. Then it's between him and Tet McMillan.
Okay.
Like it really is. Unless we got kind of a curveball where, say, the Browns draft Travis Hunter and they're like, we actually want Travis Hunter to play as much receiver as possible because Travis is just such a special talent, but we're waiting on that. We don't know. So we're going to have a potential top 5 pick here. And Loveland would be in this conversation as well because he's a phenomenal receiving tight end.
Yep. Okay. Well, Connor, you caught up with another elite tight end prospect in Elijah Arroyo out of Miami. Let's check it out.
Elijah, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How about you?
It's good. I'm good, man. It's great to have you here after a monster breakout season. How did you and Cam Ward build that connection so quickly?
When he came in day one, he made sure he built a relationship with, everybody on the team, not just, receivers and tight ends. I feel like he really brought the team together, from the time he stepped in. And, we're always in there getting extra work, just doing what we have to do because, we all have a common goal. We wanted to be great. And, we fell kind of short of, just getting a trophy, but we're able to do a lot of great things this year.
What is it about Cam that separates him from other quarterbacks that you've gotten to play with? Obviously, just incredible season. He might be the #1 overall pick. Like, when did you realize, okay, this guy is on a different level?
I would say by spring ball, I already knew. Obviously, you guys see what he does on the field, the confidence he brings, to our team as a whole. But I would just say, off the field, the type of leader he is, He brought the guys in from day one, brought the team, very close, had us all hanging out. We'd all go hang out at his house, play with his dog. He's an old head, so we go, have, like, barbecues and stuff. But, yes, sir.
Another thing with Elijah that was really cool, he played 6 years of youth football in Mexico. Really interesting background. Got to talk to him about that. When he was 6, his family moved to Cancun. He said he's like, I learned football in Spanish. He's like, hey, and he was like, he's like, you'd be surprised. Like down there, he's like, we were running like real concepts, real offense. Then they moved to Texas because, he was a great athlete. He was the biggest kid on the field in Mexico all the time. Played every position, returned kicks. But he's a phenomenal athlete, and I think he's become not a sleeper because everyone knows what kind of athlete he is, but he's a special talent.
I just remember, I went to Syracuse. I remember watching the Syracuse-Miami game and just doing this like every other play. Will you guard Arroyo?
Yeah.
What are you?
Yeah.
How many times has this guy got to catch a ball and get a first down before we try to stop him? And like everything they threw at him, it didn't matter.
He runs by everybody.
Yeah.
He did it at the Senior Bowl.
He drove me crazy.
Me and Lawrence were right there when he walked over, and we just couldn't believe how big he is because he's a pass-catching first tight end. But Lawrence, we were like,
but he's like built like somebody that line up in line and block every play. But like you just talked about, Matthew, you've seen it versus Syracuse. Like he's the extremely athletic guy at that size.
Yep. It's amazing.
He looks more like a pass-catching tight end, and like not a like a
He's just a
He's big. He's a big fella.
Yep. It's amazing the breadth and diversity of human experience. You've got Elijah Arroyo learning football in Spanish in Mexico, and then you got Matthew Berry at the food truck, 2:30 a.m. Just goes to show
it all relates.
Dreams are possible.
Can I tell you something? I want to be clear here. Do you know why food trucks exist? Do you know why they're open at 2:30 in the morning? Because people use them.
It's true.
Because people come out of parties and they're hungry. But God bless the food truck industry of America. I don't know why you're sitting here hating on it. I don't know why you're against a free economy. I don't know why you're against capitalism. This guy is a communist over here. Communist over here. Look, you know what? I'm supporting the local economy. You're welcome, Indianapolis. You're welcome. You know what? Because I'm sitting here contributing to the local economy, whereas you're sitting there snubbing your nose at some people out there at 2:30 in the morning, just trying to feed America is what they're doing.
I'm with you, Barry, except the fact that, again, you woke the guy up. Besides that part, I'm with you. Like, go get them fries. But you woke my man up while he was on the clock. You know how rude that is?
He was taking a quick snooze. But, I mean, Lawrence will back me up here. The food truck not only had big neon flashing lights, it said open. I mean, it said open. Like
he forgot to turn that off before he went night-night.
Yes. Excuse me, sir. Can I please get a large fries? I need to let the lion roar.
Right. Exactly.
All right, let's get to the Rotoworld Player news. Starting off with Cincinnati Bengals offensive coordinator talking about Chase Brown, saying that we want to add another running back. We heard from Dan Pitcher.
You want to rely on your best players, and we counted Chase as one of those people for us. As you step back and look at it big picture, I think that's definitely an area we're looking to potentially add some talent and maybe, supplement some of what Chase was able to give us. Chase isn't the biggest guy, so maybe if you have an opportunity to add a bigger back with maybe a little more power repertoire to his game, that size maybe helps you in protection. But I say that with the caveat that Chase really stepped up in his protection as well last year. So I think you can kind of look at it with a little bit of a blank slate and say, let's find a way to add a really good football player. We know Chase has a well-rounded skill set, and depending on who we're able to add, we can mold it.
What do you think, Lawrence? Do you buy the idea that Chase Brown is going to see his snap percentage and usage go way down?
I think you have to after hearing that. I don't think the plan in the beginning was ever to have Chase Brown playing that much, but when he got in that position, he thrived. Like, they started off the season with Zach Moss as the RB1, so I definitely would buy that they're looking. He literally just said we're looking to add a bigger back to complement. It's, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, same type of situation. Would it be interesting, though, to see, how they add that back? Will it be through the draft? Because there's a couple of guys, come to mind, Amarian Hampton, Ali Gordon, just bigger running backs that could complement a guy like Chase Brown. So it'll be interesting to see if they get it out the draft or free agency.
Yeah, you know what? I love this comment. You know why? Because it might drive down Chase Brown's draft stock. And I don't care at all. Give me all the Chase Brown at a discount this year. So a couple of things here. So Zach Taylor addressed this as well on the podium yesterday. And I spoke to two different Bengals, one Bengals team source and one an actual assistant coach on the Bengals at that party last night. And I asked him about this. And here's the deal. They all said some version of the same thing. So I'm sort of paraphrasing here. But in essence, this is more about Zach Moss's injury was really serious, really serious. I don't know when that kid's coming back. And they didn't get much out of Khalil Herbert. So this is about depth for that running back room. They truly believe in Chase Brown on first and second down.
Right.
And so this is something that Zach Taylor said from the podium. It's just like, hey, maybe, some other people on third down, but certainly Chase down the stretch proved that he could be that kind of back. Chase Brown had 85, this is over the final 8 games of the season, right? Week 9 on, once Zach Moss kind of went down, right? He averaged over 23 touches a game, 4th most in the NFL. He had a 13.5% target share, 8th most in the NFL among running backs, and he played 85% of the snaps. That was the 3rd highest rate in the NFL. Yes, his snap rate will probably come down, but who cares? If you're telling me Chase Brown is playing 70% of the snaps, 75% of the snaps instead of 85% of the snaps, even 65% of the snaps, and I don't think it'll get down that low because he's a special player and he proved that he could handle that kind of workload. He's still Chase freaking Brown. He's still the lead running back on what's going to be one of the best offenses in the NFL. So they'll add somebody. They'll add somebody that it makes sense that they want to add a running back that's good in pass pro because they've got Joe Burrow back there, right? And their offensive line's still a work in progress. So but Chase Brown's still going to be a superstar, right? Chase Brown is still going to be a rock star. I currently have him at number 31 overall. I'm as a top 12 running back. And, I think there's a scenario where I'm too low on him. So good. Let the aggregators run with the idea that they're adding a running back.
Yep.
It doesn't matter.
Two things, Connor. I will never forget when Frank Reich, after Jonathan Taylor's 2021 epic runner-up offensive player of the year season, he said coming into the next year, we need to take the load off of JT. We need to give Nyheim Hines more of this backfield.
Yes.
And then literally the first game against the Texans, Jonathan Taylor had 30 carries.
Right.
And then also, anyone remember Blake Corum going into this season?
Oh,
It's
I
like,
do.
Oh, it's going to be a
I do.
timeshare with Kyron
I remember punt returner Kyron Williams.
Yeah, I didn't see Blake Corum this season. Just that didn't have a role,
Right.
and it was the Kyron Williams show. So the one thing, though, is do you think that Chase Brown, do you think he has the body that can withstand a full season of that kind of usage?
I do. What you have to watch here is just what is the talent they bring in. If they draft
Right.
Quinshon Judkins, then I'm really concerned.
Yes,
because Quinshon
exactly.
Judkins is awesome
Exactly.
and physical and downhill and a red
Yep.
zone monster. If they take a guy in the 6th round, then I don't care at all.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it'll all be based on
Yeah,
what
if you-
kind of draft capital
Yeah,
they
if you're
invest.
talking about second, third
Then
round,
it's
we got
different.
something
This
to talk
class
about.
is nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to a backfield that actually
He's
does
still-
have a
Yeah. timeshare
timeshare element, and that's in Seattle. Mike Macdonald, we heard from him talking about the deep Seahawks backfield and Clint Kubiak's vision for all three backs.
Well, it's a good problem to have. I think we got three really good football players, good runners. They can all do all three things, play all three downs for us. I think Ken and Zach's styles complement one another. Kenny's shown the ability to run wide zone really well too. So it's going to be fun to see how the reps shake out throughout the year and the roles we have for him. But keeping Kennedy Polamalu as our running back coach was awesome for us, and he did such a great job with those guys this year. And I know Clint has a great vision for all three backs on our offense, and excited to work with them when they come back.
Interesting throwing Kenny McIntosh into all three backs.
Also, interesting to hear an NFL head coach. It's going to be fun to see how it all shakes out. It's your decision, right?
Yeah, right.
You understand you're the coach. You get to make these calls.
It's a randomizer
He's
answer.
like, he's just like, it's like he's a fan. I can't wait to sit down on the couch Sundays and see how it all shakes out. Like, you're okay.
I think logic just has to dictate that this has to be, Lawrence, more of a 50-50 split between KW3 and Charbonnet.
At least closer to it. And mentioning Kenny McIntosh there, I think it's just all about just giving his guys some credit for being a good pro. Because you saw the graphic up there just on the screen, the top three running back rushers. Yeah. That ain't the top three Seahawks rushers. Geno Smith had more rushing yards than Kenny McIntosh last year. So I don't, buy the whole three-headed thing. It'll be closer to that 50-50, try to keep Kenneth Walker healthy.
Yeah, that was like when we talked about how much fun our group had last night, and we mentioned, and backup producer Pete was there as well. Like, we don't want him to feel excluded, you know what I mean? But it was really like it was me, Jay, and Damien. But no, the group, backup producer Pete.
Comparing backup producer Pete to Kenny McIntosh is an all-time deep read.
Hey.
Yeah. Backup producer Pete
Pete's
is the Kenny
that he has
McIntosh
children.
of happy hour. There's no question.
You don't have children anymore, Pete. Not after that.
What he does
steady career right there.
Yeah,
what he does is,
Absolutely
long-lived,
buried.
deep Pomelatus.
Yeah.
I will say this, to your point, though, Jay, about, it just feels like this is heading that way. Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker, the third, into more of a timeshare. One of the people I talked to at that party last night was on the offensive staff for the Seahawks last year, and I asked him, how could Zach Charbonnet not, Ken's great. I totally get it. And in fantasy, we actually prefer there only be one back. But just looking at it logically from an NFL standpoint, how did Zach Charbonnet not get on the field more? What am I missing? And he just shook his head and goes, above my pay grade. I agree with you. I don't know, man.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, he was just like, I don't know why the decisions were made that they were made.
Did you ask him about Tyler Lockett's impending retirement? That you pushed
I
him
did
into?
not ask him about that. Did not ask about that. He is no longer on the Seattle staff. He is now with another team.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
Let's close out with one last news item. Commanders head coach Dan Quinn, named best coach in the league by NFLPA report card. I'm not really sure the fantasy relevance of this or why it's in the show, but he is number one. A+
show?
Great question. Why is this here? Why do we have to talk about this? Go ahead, Matthew.
This is
Give
the
us some
definition
content.
of reading off the script.
I'll tell you exactly why it's here. It just points out, by the way, how screwed Dan Quinn got not winning Coach of the Year.
Wow.
Because he took over a team where
not only 14-3
was
with a quarterback no one wants.
Well, he took off a team. He took over. Dan Quinn took over not only a team that had 4 wins previously and a preseason win total of 6.5, but a culture and a franchise that had been moribund. Like that, there was just like people hated the franchise. They they didn't know what to expect, and he turned it all around. Like he not only got to the NFC Championship game with by far the weakest roster of any of the playoff teams, but he also completely changed the culture and the identity of that franchise, which had been sunk into a low that we haven't seen in the NFL previously. And so, yeah, I mean, Dan Quinn, Coach of the Year. I will die on that hill. Dan Quinn should have been Coach of the Year last year. Kevin O'Connell did a great job. No shade towards friend of the show, Kevin O'Connell. We like KOC here. Yep. Dan Quinn was Coach of the Year.
Back-to-back snubs. Kevin Stefanski last year, him this year.
It's all noted, Matthew. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to look at Connor's top pass catchers in the draft. Talk about tight ends and wide receivers after this.
Pete, come to the food truck with me tonight.
Okay, welcome back. We're at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis.
Yeah,
great shot.
Look at that. That's amazing.
Happy hour with Matthew Burr.
Yeah.
Burry. Yeah. Can't see the Y. That's fine. No more Dan Quinn chat the rest of the show, I promise.
Should we change the logo? Right now it's a beer. It's a glass of beer. Should it just be me chowing down on fries at like 2:30?
That would be
really
more.
good. At least a box of fries.
Yeah.
Just be more apt. With neon lighting around the title.
By the way,
no doubt. All right, let's take a look at Connor's big board. Top wide receivers and tight ends. The aforementioned Tyler Warren, Ted McMillan, Eka Egbuka, and then the first guy we're going to talk about, Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan. And I think one of the most interesting things here, Connor, is how do you adjust him based on his quarterback play the previous year?
That's a great question, Jay. And teams here, the more and more people I talk to, they're looking at that as just a problem that nobody could fix. Colston Loveland, I think, is going to go in the top 15 of this draft. For context, a month ago, last mock draft I wrote, I had him 25th to the Chargers, reunited with his old coach in Harbaugh. Yeah. Just that the world's just not happening anymore, right? I look at maybe the Broncos at 20 are the floor. Loveland is just so good in the pass game. He's got maybe some of the best hands in the draft. So good when the play breaks down, working with his quarterback. Smooth route runner, knows how to get open. Pretty good size overall at the position. Not as big as Tyler Warren, but good enough size. Loveland's going to be a first-round pick, and it's probably going to be the top half of round one. So he will be a big talking point in fantasy because he actually has just as much pass-catching upside as Warren.
Wow.
Yeah, and the good thing about him, they run plays with him, kind of like how they run with Dallas Goedert, except Loveland is more athletic, more shifty with the ball in his hands. So definitely once we see what team is, Connor, you say he'll go in the top 15. There's teams there like the Panthers, the Saints, who will need a new tight end. So all those teams in that middle of the first round, maybe even the Bears too, could be in play for him and Tyler Warren. So looking forward to seeing that.
This feels like the most loaded tight end has been in a while. Just when you factor in the existing guys in Bowers, McBride, Laporta, Kittle, Travis Kelce at this rate is going to be towards the bottom of the top 10 with news that he is coming back.
By the way, one of the rumors I heard, my NFL rumors column will be coming out next year, but one of the rumors I heard, can't substantiate this at all, was that Mark Andrews might be on a new team next year, that the Ravens might be moving on from Mark Andrews, in which case Isaiah Likely would suddenly, if you knew Mark Andrews wasn't playing for the Ravens next year, Isaiah Likely's an easy top 10 fantasy tight end, right?
Kelsey.
I'd go even higher, probably.
Right. And then you've got Njoku, and I know it was a disappointing season for Jake Ferguson, but I still believe in him, right? I mean, I agree with you. And by the way, Ken Dalton Kincaid, who had that great second half of his rookie year, and then last year sort of fell off, but can he rebound? Oh, by the way, T.J. Hawkinson's going to be a full year removed from his injury, right? And you'll see who's going to be throwing the ball, but
you got to factor in Warren and Loveland.
Yeah.
When two guys get taken in the top 15 to 20 picks in the draft, that's a big
And that was my thing about Brock Bowers. It's like he's taken 13th and he's this good. Run with that. That's good enough. Now, I'll ask you this, Connor, about Colston Loveland. We talk about Tyler Warren. He'll probably be on the field every play.
Yes.
The Colston Loveland, not as, known as being a blocker, strictly a receiver. So what do you think his snaps will look like?
That's a great question. I guess it depends where it goes and what kind of tight end they have. You brought up the Bears, Lawrence. Obviously, then you're sharing a little bit. You better hope they're very heavy in 12 personnel. But I think his usage could be similar to what we saw when Kincaid got drafted by the Bills. They still like Dawson Knox, especially on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah,
so you want that usage in 12 personnel. Or if you're in 11, can he play the slot? He can. So the usage will be enough that he's a starting tight end in fantasy. But that's a key point, Lawrence, what separates Warren from the pack.
I also wonder if somebody like Loveland, again, we'll see where he lands, but if somebody like Loveland gets actually overdrafted in fantasy because of the Brock Bowers effect, right?
I thought about that with Warren.
Right. I mean, and possibly with Warren as well, because even though they're brilliant, like Kincaid's rookie year was like fine. You know what I mean? Like think about Kyle Pitts. Think about Noah Fant.
We've been burned a lot.
Like I mean, think about like
O.J.
Noah
Howard.
Fant, O.J. Howard. No, I'm just saying. Think about.
Don't mention his name.
No, but think about guys that tight ends that also were drafted in the first round that had high draft capital that we were like, this guy's awesome. You know what I mean? And like, to me, Pitts is the most glaring example, but in top 5 overall pick, and it just hasn't happened for him. And that was a guy that was described as generational as well. But again, like I think back to Noah Fant. I think about we're still waiting on Kincaid as to, jury is still sort of out there on him, and
I haven't given up on Noah Fant yet. Still
Have you not?
Still like the flashes. It's probably not going to happen at this point.
Flash on, brother.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's jump
and it
to
took Hawkinson a while. Like Hawkinson's rookie year wasn't much fantasy-wise.
Yeah, and they eventually, even traded him as good as he was.
Correct.
So.
Let's
Within
jump
the
to
division.
Missouri wide receiver Luther Burden the third, who's 24th on your big board. Connor, third wide receiver. You had him mocked previously to the Broncos at 20. What's his scope to be immediate impact?
Yeah, I said Loveland, I think, goes a lot earlier than my previous mock draft. Burden, I think, slides a little bit. And this is a really, really interesting player. He is so good after the catch. I like his work best in the slot. I think the quarterback play really, really hurt him this year in this offense. But I think at the end of the day, you just have to wonder, is he somebody that'll get to play on the outside at the next level? Why didn't the numbers click this year, even though, there was obviously some times where he's a little banged up. There's times where the quarterback didn't get him the ball. But Lawrence, to me, I don't even know if it's his fault as much as the numbers went down. But Tet McMillan had a big year. I like Emeka Ibuka a lot. Matthew Golden from Texas is on his heels. Like, the class started to catch up to Luther Burden.
Yeah, they just got another receiver involved, and when you talk about him playing on the outside, he did that as a sophomore. Like, that's where those big plays came from. He was on the outside. They were deep balls, and the quarterback was putting it there last year. This season, when he did make a play, it was more catch and run. Get the ball on the screen, get it intermediate, take it to the house. So you still know he could make plays. The numbers just wasn't there. So it'll be interesting to see how far that slide goes.
To your point, though, I mean, the Broncos, basically bottom 12 in the NFL in terms of receiving yards from the slot. So if they feel like he can play there,
awesome
it
fit.
seems like an awesome fit, right? And that makes a lot of sense. I know that's where you have him currently mocked.
Yep. Last two guys before we hit a break. Iowa State wide receiver Jayden Higgins and then Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden. What's their scope to be different makers day one?
Yeah, with Higgins, the perimeter ability. He's big. He's 6'4". He moves really well. He tracks the ball. He's caught a ton of touchdowns over the previous years. He sees the ball in so well. He's physical. I mean, he's a true outside wide receiver that also played in the slot at Iowa State and was really productive. I thought he was pretty dominant at the Senior Bowl practices. And when you look at Golden, he's not going to be the most athletic guy, but he's so nuanced in his routes and his timing, and he catches everything. You watch him in that Texas offense, especially throughout the college playoff. This is somebody that was kind of the go-to guy for Quinn Ewers when everybody thought it would be Isaiah Bond, Lawrence, because of the speed.
Definitely.
And Matthew Golden kind of came out of nowhere and was the go-to target where – can you see a little bit of a Mon-Ra in him where it's like, hey, he's never the biggest or the fastest, but he's so detailed in everything he does.
When he gets behind the DB, it's not necessarily because he's a burner like Isaiah Bond. It's just that he know how to control his speed and he knows how to work at the top of his routes and get the DBs on their heels. So he's a smart player. So it'll be interesting to see what where he goes.
Okay, we're getting out of the last break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Travis Hunter sweepstakes, look at his odds of which team will draft the guy who Connor thinks is the best player in the draft. DraftKings Sportsbook is the #1 sportsbook for live betting, and new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Just download the app and use the promo code BERRY when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crowd is yours. Let the lion roar. It's yours. All right, odds to draft Travis Hunter. The Cleveland Browns, #2 pick. They're the favorite at plus 350. My Nueva York Giants, Los Gigantes, plus 425. Patriots, plus 450. Titans, 5-1 to take the best player in the draft with the #1 overall pick. Then producer Steven has snuck his Jags in there at 5-1 optimistically. Connor, what's your best bet in this market?
I'm going with the board here and taking the Browns at plus 350. I think that's a pretty good number, all things considered.
Why isn't this just a coin flip?
A lot of people think Abdul Carter is going number 1 overall, or that if somebody trades with the Titans, they're coming up for Cam. So if the scenario number 1 is Cam or Abdul Carter, I mean, I'm looking at Travis Hunter and thinking he goes there at 2. The only reason, Jay, I think it's plus 350, which has a little value, maybe they think the Browns are open for business as well, right? Like, say the Titans take Abdul Carter, Lawrence, and then the Browns are like, hey, we'll take anything to get out of this pick. Then Cam Ward goes number 2.
That's
overall.
what I'm going to. I think the Browns open for business, and I think the Jags are buying. They'll trade up, draft Travis Hunter to help their league worst passing defense because they most definitely need a corner. He could mess with wide receiver 3 on the team. So Jay's favorite coach, Liam Cohen, moves up in the draft and takes Travis Hunter.
Okay. What do you like, Matthew?
Just for fun, give me the Titans at plus 500.
I was waiting for Commanders.
No, listen. No.
Watch the ball.
Somehow, some way.
Commanders will trade up. Travis Hunter wants to play with Jayden Daniels. No. Titans, front office has basically said, like, I'm not going to pass on a generational player. I'm paraphrasing, but it's some quote on that. He said that was the quote. I'm not going to pass on a generational player. Well, I get that Abdul Carter is that, but so's Travis Hunter.
Right.
And then there's news coming out that Abdul Carter might need surgery. Like,
There's stress.
Right. Yeah. So could you see a scenario where we get more news about Abdul Carter, that he's not going to be ready to start the season or whatever? And so, again, give me Travis Hunter if you're in Tennessee.
Yep. Aren't the Titans just going to take Cam Ward when it's all said and done?
You would think when logic applies they would, but there's been no buzz about it at all. Maybe there's a reason for that.
We just don't know.
Maybe Brian Callen is I can win with Mason Rudolph.
Yeah,
Trust me.
He couldn't.
I think the top 6, 7 of this draft we got the most drama and all that stuff that we've had in recent years. Yeah.
Yep. No, I'm with you, Connor. Plus 350 Browns. That's the bet.
Yep.
That's the bet for me. I think that's the most logical thing. I think the Browns will take Carter or Ward, and then Hunter falls to Cleveland.
Well, we will see.
More fun tonight.
More
for
fun.
you?
More fun tonight. There's more French fries to be eaten.
That's what I was implying. That food truck guy's going to light up when he sees you walking down
so you
the
don't
street.
have to go home, but you can't stay here. For Lawrence Jackson, Jay Croucher, Connor Rogers, producer Damian, backup producer Pete, I'm Matthew Berry. Peace out. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Rotoworld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.